Only had a little bit of light coming in the front, a small backyard, and basically she had the lights on all day, every day.
That's just a horrible way to live, isn't it? And so many long terrace houses have that problem.
It just requires a bit of lateral thinking, doesn't it? This particular client, she was quite happy to have quite a modest-sized kitchen. We decided that what we would do is use the corridor space as a kitchen space, and that allowed us to get the light well and actually enlarge it.
Andrew, this stair's made of a very interesting material.
Yeah, this is perforated metal, and we use this for two main reasons. Number one, to share lots of light between the two spaces, but also for sound, so people actually talk to each other. The idea is, instead of having young kids and they're always screaming down for a sandwich or a glass of milk down the stairs, they can actually talk through. It's like walking on a cloud.
That's just a horrible way. And Andrew, this bar, so many long...
Yeah, I know, right?
It's like a big yellow blob of fiberglass.
Well, that's exactly what it is. The builder actually made this. And Louis, this 5-year-old kid now, can just splash water everywhere, and it will all just hit the sides and that allowed us to get the light well and actually enlarge.
Andrew, you mentioned storage.
Yeah, well, this is only a 6-metre wide block, so the generic sort of solution is to just add a whole heap of storage on one side. And if you've got kids, all you ever do is chucking it on the floor,
constantly.
And you've always got to pick it up and put it away. So what we decided to do is to actually make the floor the storage space. So we've got these little babies in here. Check that out. And then, so they're just full of stuff, everyday stuff, and lots of toys. So, Louis is constantly picking up the toys instead of you picking them up. The great thing about storage in this way is that if the bell rings, the front door, and you suddenly have visitors, everything just falls back into the floor. You don't have to put it away. So we can quickly throw it in here and then go jump on the couch, and the house that tidies itself.
Fantastic.
Come on in.
Andrew, you mentioned storage.
Yeah, well, this is only a 6-metre wide block, so the generic sort of solution is to just add a whole...
I really love this project. For me, it just gives me an instant taste of what the Melbourne culture is like and what Melbourne means to me.
The storage space, so we've got these little babies in here.
When you design a new building in the middle of the city, a good architect will always reference its neighbours. And this one does just that. Its heavy structure with punched windows references and complements this streetscape. And that's important because any building should aspire to be around for a long time. But inside, it's not so much about a long time, it's more about a good time. Your title, Nick, Creative Director, is very theatrical.
As a role of an interior designer, we're also involved in putting forward the DNA of the QT brand, and that is about theatre, it's about music, it's about fashion, it's about good food and drink, it's about socialising, it's about flirtation, and it's about providing a stage on which people can play in the city.
This artwork is beautiful.
It's a real feature, a real centre point for not only the staircase but for the hotel lobby.
So Nick, flirtation.
The wallpaper in the distance here, it looks like a traditional French toile, but when you get up close, there's actually a little bit of naughty action going on. In the bathrooms as well, we've taken some 19th century artworks and then worked them with the graphic designer. Even when you go in the lifts, there's sexy little voices that are saying salacious things as you're going up and down.
This whole floor, it recalls Paris End of Collins Street?
Definitely, I'm glad you noticed, Jill. It has a catwalk which leads to the French patisserie, it has peekaboo moments watching the French chef make his creations. There's a beautiful wine table in the middle which is flowers, candles, some musical instruments. All of that is a bit of colours, fall and...
It's very La Belle Epoque.
Absolutely, yes.
That's right. I did hear that. This is a really different look.
The industrial elements of raw concrete, exposed surfaces, black metal, they are a bit of a reference back to what Shelley Indic architects did for us in the rooms. So they're industrial chic in the middle of the city.
This is a bit like one of Melbourne's secret spots.
It's a dirty little secret of the hotel to have this amazing space on top of the hotel.
It's really spectacular.
Thank you.
This is a place that is all about contrast. It's industrial, but highly decorative. Rough against smooth and raw against polished. And I think it works.
Our team of property, building and design industry leaders are counting down the top 10 architectural statements in Victoria for the year.
As a group, we're judging really a wide range of different buildings, and it's a really interesting process.
It is built on an old wharf, an old pier, so it had to be lightweight. They couldn't use traditional concrete and steel, so to speak. It wouldn't hold it.
This is a 21st century library. It's not just about the books, it's about how we live. It has a cafe, a performance space, and even a recording studio. It's not just a building, it's a place for people. It's the village square that Docklands really needed. Lindsay, one of the challenges of this building was the fact that it had to go onto an existing heritage wharf.
Yes, and the heritage wharf presented a big challenge because we had to design a building quite carefully that had a reduced weight. The weight of the timber was about 30% less than traditional building materials.
So the whole building is built from timber, not out of concrete and steel and brick like a normal building. And I understand it all came flat packed, like an IKEA set.
21 shipping containers from Austria arrived on site in sequence. It took 6 carpenters 60 days to put the whole structure up.
Environmental concerns were a large part of the council's brief to the architect. And do you feel like that's been achieved?
We've exceeded our expectations with this building.
I love it when a client says that.
It's important for us to set a benchmark for the future. Take this space, for example. It's a naturally ventilated space.
It feels beautifully fresh and clean, Ian. What happens when the weather goes bad?
The louvers automatically close.
Great. And what is the overall energy outcome?
It saves a substantial amount of energy, in the order of 50%.
Half the energy of a conventional building. That's a fantastic outcome. Lindsay, it's a lovely, wide, generous stair connecting the levels.
Well, amazingly, the whole stair was taken out of its container and placed on site within 1 hour. Wow.
And we can see the joints, we can see the thickness of the timber. It's got a lovely tactile, authentic feel.
Well, we really wanted people to understand how the building was made.
And from here, I can really get a strong sense of the timber structure of the building.
We know in high winds it even creaks like an old boat.
Fantastic. So Docklands. There's a sensuality to this building. It looks good, it feels good. All the timber inside even makes it smell good. And I love how simple and exposed the structure is. This really is a public building we can all be proud of.
Our team of property, building and design industry leaders are counting down the top 10 architectural statements in Victoria for the year.
Architecture is important because it's part of our lives. It's part of our city. It forms our environment.
Number 4 is a Southern Coast masterpiece.
Lots of fantastic features with this particular property. It's a very complex build, so the architect has certainly done extremely well here.
All along the southern coastline of Australia, the challenge is to look both ways. South to the grand theatre of the Great Southern Ocean, and north towards the sun. This house does both. So John, what a remarkable site, what a remarkable house, and the view.
Just hit us straight on when we first came here was this incredible panoramic view that spans from Aireys Inlet to Lorne. Of course, to take it into another dimension, we thought to break it into a series of platforms, each one as a set piece with a different aspect of this great view.
The house seems to twist and fold.
It does exactly that as part of an iterative process that accorded with, I think, a really appropriate planning requirement, that we sit on this bit of virgin landscape in accordance with the silhouette behind. Timmy, you can see right here where it responds most. You can see us crimping and folding as we pushed what was really a requirement for a very large house into a very small footprint.
Part of the fold is shaping that view as well.
We walked into a fairly compressed space that at this last moment reveals the first of these big chambers that look out across the ocean.
So So at the centre of the house, John, you've got a north-facing courtyard capturing that sun. It's almost like the house is wrapping its arms around the courtyard.
It has to do that. The winds, it's a bit of a southerly buster out there, have to provide a release to the living chambers on this, and there's 3 of them either side of the living room that allow life to continue outside the house at these times. And here, after all the journey, here's the point we reveal the view utterly.
Wow, in all its glory. John, I can't see another house. We are alone.
No, it gives you part of this further crimping and folding to actually exclude every other distraction to create a platform that is just us and the vast panorama.
This home feels less like a house than a fine piece of cabinetry. It reminds us that our own homes don't need to be the square boxes they've always been. Number 3 was a wild card and a favourite of landscape architect Kirsten Bauer from Aspect Studios.
It's like this sort of animal going through the park, you know what I mean? So it's got these people talking about dinosaur legs or giraffe heads as light. So in a way it's very elegant, and if it wasn't done by an architect it probably wouldn't have been as a beautiful bridge.
Stefan, obviously everybody experiences a bridge by walking across it, but that's not the only way to experience a bridge, is it?
We spent a lot of time thinking about the experience underneath the bridge.
The bridge actually has a very sculptural quality.
Yeah, look, it was really important to us to have that kind of relationship to this park where we are now. This is kind of a little known kind of pocket of Melbourne, and we wanted to really make sure that the bridge kind of nestled in amongst the trees and within that landscape.
Stefan, I don't know if this is the right way to put it, but the bridge seems to have an
When you design a new building in the middle of the city,
We refer to
a good architect will always reference its neighbours. And this one does just that. Its heavy structure with punched windows references and complements this streetscape.
Yes, exactly.
And that's important because any building should aspire to be around for a long time. But inside, it's not so much about a long time, it's more about a good time. Your title, Nick, Creative Director, is very theatrical.
As a role of an interior designer, we're also involved in putting forward the DNA of the QT brand, and that is about theatre, it's about music, it's about fashion, it's about good food and drink, it's about social life. 19th century to talk about the issues of the day.
That stitches the bridge and the design of the bridge directly into the history of the site. It's not expected that architects would design bridges. People would normally expect that's an engineer's job.
Well, engineers are closely involved, obviously, but as an architect, you can offer something else. The first structural engineers' drawings for the project are actually very simple, and they get you from point A to point B. But it's this lightweight steelwork that wraps around the outside that is like a filigree and refers back to the branching of the trees and the park just adjacent.
So we've got this strong concrete bones, and then we've got this nice negligee around it.
Exactly, it's a very good way to describe it.
Stefan is right, you know. Why shouldn't architects design Rob, this was a collaborative effort with Seth Stein Architects in London.
Yes, that's right. Seth and I actually have a very similar approach. We're interested in detail and simplicity.
And we love this curve.
Yeah, the curve's quite deliberate, not only for the framing aspect, but also so the horses in the stalls can actually focus out the activity in the arena. Very limited palette of materials. We dealt with timber, this Tassie oak and spotted gum, rammed earth and a zinc roof.
I love this recessed door handle.
Yeah, well, I'm actually an industrial designer as well, so this level of detail really fascinates me.
It's a bit like an old Land Rover door handle. The whole flush finish is impeccably detailed. It's really way beyond the quality you normally see in a farm building. The rammed earth's an interesting choice. It's a material that's normally found in high-end housing.
Yeah, well, it's a good, honest, robust material.
And the light's coming from both sides of the room. It's a rule that we use in housing.
Yeah, natural light and also cross ventilation at low level here with the windows and doors and at high level with the eaves. But the views are important because horses, like humans, want to be connected to their environment.
They're smart creatures. I mean, I could actually live in here.
And horses do.
Rob, I love the elegance of the roof.
It's a really important factor of the whole building, so we pay a lot of attention to it. We turn our back to the really cold prevailing winds to the south, and it opens up to the north.
And that's exactly the same principle we'd use for a good quality house.
Yeah, and why change that?
Carolyn, how does this facility work for you?
It works well. It's got everything we wanted.
But it's not just functional, is it? Like
It's beautiful.
It's a beautiful building.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. Whenever I arrive and I see it at the end of the drive, you know, my heart jumps because it's beautiful.
There's no great buildings without great clients, and I think you should be congratulated.
Thank you very much.
Caroline, the client, clearly understands the value of quality and aesthetics. Working with her architects, this has resulted in a functional and beautiful building.
And now our judges pick for number one.
Well, this was a bit of a natural winner, I think, and the panel were really very clear on this being the leading project.
The group was enthusiastic about such a prestigious